With that, I'd like to invite Jim Mullen to come forward. This community is so fortunate to have Jim as our United Way President and CEO. He brings tremendous energy and passion to the work. And I'll say that in addition to borrowing some ideas from Nashville, we are not borrowing Jim, we just flat out stole him, which was a very good move. Jim's going to share with us some insights about the exciting path ahead here for our community.
Thank you, Christine. Hold on, there we go. Thank you, Christine. So Christine just described me as energetic, and that might be the first time ever anyone has described me as energetic, so I will do my best as I stand up here today. I'm going to begin where I started this morning with a couple thank yous. I know we've already thanked our board and our leadership, but I'd be remiss as a staff leader not to do that. The path we are about to take and the work we're about to do only happens when you have great volunteer leadership. And this organization clearly has that. It's been on display on this stage, and I think it's been on display in our community, not just this year, but for a very long time. The second thing I'd like to do is thank all of you. As we go through this reimagining of United Way, it's going to take an entire community. It's not going to be just our staff. It's not just going to be our board. It is going to be the entire community. And over the course of the last year, many of you in this room have taken part in these conversations that have been described. You've provided feedback, and you've helped us kind of understand where we are as United Way and where we could go. So thank you. And last, and certainly not least, I want to thank our team. Our staff, when I arrived, had a clear understanding of where we've been, a firm understanding of where we could go, and more importantly, they're embracing the future as we drive to be a reimagined United Way. So again, thank you, staff, for what you've done. Much appreciated. As Christine was talking, I was reminded of how important it is to know that you're part of a network and that there's other United Ways out there going through similar challenges and opportunities that we are. And as we go through this work and as we imagine what we could be, I want to always remember that there are other United Ways that are going down this similar path. And for that, that's important for us. So like many of you in this room, over the last couple of months, we've had a great opportunity to hear from 3 community leaders on their own state of the business. Akron Public Schools, the City of Akron, and the state and the County of Summit. And through their speeches, I'm always marveled in listening to how they address their opportunities, their successes, and their challenges. And I sat in all 3 of those, and I could not help but hear the synergy between what they're doing and how they're addressing their challenges as it relates to health and human services, and how aligned that is as we move forward as a United Way, and how we will work together with the County of Summit, and with the city, and with the Akron Public Schools to ensure all of Summit County has an opportunity for success. And I hope, as we progress, that'll continue to be at the forefront of what we say and what we do in our actions. The question I get a lot, and I've gotten it a lot particularly since this morning, is why now? And I think, for me, change is in the air. Akron and Summit County are at that point where I think change is across the entire landscape. The nonprofit sector, I'm living proof of that. We have a new mayor, which we're all very excited about. We have mergers and acquisitions, and we have changing to our corporate landscape. We as an organization just nominated an incredible board that you all saw, and we're very excited about their commitment and our change. So as we think about change and where we're going, we really feel like the time for innovation and change is now. And change doesn't have to be a bad thing. Change done in the right way is extremely productive. 1 year ago, I stood on the stage and was introduced to the community. And I asked the community to think about 3 things in my 2.5 minutes that Beth Boggins gave me to talk last year. And what I told her, or what I told all of you, is that 1, I want us to be bold. I want us to do everything we possibly can to think about the work differently and be bold in what we do. The second thing I got asked was, or I told you all, was why did I want to come back to Akron, Ohio and Northeast Ohio? And the first thing I said was, Akron has a spirit of innovation throughout its history. The county and the city continue to reinvent themselves as they address challenges and opportunities to be something better than they were before. And for me, that sparked my curiosity to be part of the change. And then lastly, I talked about scaled solutions and impact. I talked about how important it is not just to say good is good enough, but to strive for what is best and what is scaled. And we will continue to do that. So again, I go back to why now. And for us, it's all about data and statistics. All of you have some information at your table, and I'm just going to share 5 critical things as we think about why now and what we're doing. And the first being that 52% of individuals under the age of 18 in the city of Akron are living in poverty. 52%. 11 children will not reach their first birthday for every 1,000 births in the city of Akron. 40% of our children are obese or overweight. 27%, to Christine's point, are not reading on grade level in the Akron Public Schools. And 26% of our high school students don't graduate in 4 years. That's why it matters. That's why it matters. And for us, status quo as an organization wasn't good enough. So we are extremely excited to partner, as I said, with the county, the city, Akron Public Schools, corporate partners, you name it, we're willing. Because we want to see change to those key statistics. So now, what everyone's kind of been waiting for, what's our vision? How are we going to do it? What does it look like? Well, I think, again, it focuses on 3 critical things. 1, you heard Cincinnati from Christine talk about you have to set bold goals. You have to be aggressive, and you have to put out there that we can actually make change to those 5 critical conditions. And we will do that, and we'll work tirelessly to do that. Number 2, we are going to continue to be the United Way of Summit County. There's no doubt about it. But ultimately, if you don't impact your core, and you don't make your core healthy, the county will not thrive as a whole. So we will continue to support programmatic issues all across Summit County, but our emphasis is certainly going to be on the core of this community. And lastly, and most importantly, we're going to do it with collaborative partnerships. And collaborative partnerships, we're not just talking about corporate partners or program partners or the city or the county, it's everyone, as I said. Anyone that's willing, we want to help. And so to illuminate that, I'd ask you all to watch this short video.
This is Summit County, Ohio. Most people who live here enjoy a good life, but at the heart of our community, success is beyond reach for many. 1 in 2 children live in poverty. 11 in 1,000 babies don't make it to their first birthday. 2 in 5 children are obese. 1 in 3 third graders does not read proficiently, and 1 in 3 high school students does not graduate on time. We can and we must do better. At United Way of Summit County, we're reimagining the future of our community and changing how we approach our work. We're sharpening our focus on improving early childhood success, youth opportunity, economic mobility, and health access. Beginning now and into the future, United Way will take a 30,000-foot view of the community, identifying the gaps that separate families and individuals from key qualities of life so they can be connected with the critical services they need. Then, from 30,000 feet to feet on the ground, we'll partner with a network of corporate and community partners and with people just like you to expand our impact and to reach even more people. We will report our progress through various measures of success: bold goals for education, income, and health, public policy advancement, more volunteers, advocates, and donors, financial resources leveraged to create even more dollars. Help us reimagine your United Way and imagine the heart of our community as a place where our children flourish, from high-quality early learning to a turning of the tassel ceremony, where active minds keep pace with nourished and active bodies, and where families thrive from an abundance of employment opportunities. Together, we can and will reverse the trends in our community so that all are supported from cradle to adulthood. But in order to continue to expand our vision, we need your help. Find out how you can get involved at uwsummit.org. The families and children of Akron and all of Summit County, thank you.
So for us, that video means a lot. It's our stake in the ground of how we move forward. And I think as we think about how we move forward as an organization, it's going to center on a few things. I continue to use a word that's really important to us, and it's partnership. We're going to look at partnerships differently. We're going to look at things that are important. We're going to move beyond a transactional annual fundraising campaign to an organization that centers on corporate relationships that have mutual wins and mutual benefit to the partnership. We want our corporations to come to us and say, we want to accomplish X, Y, Z in the community because it's important to us, and how can you help? And then we want to work with them on achieving our mutual goals for the success of our most vulnerable children and families in Summit County. With our program partners and our collaborators, we want us all aimed in the same direction so that there comes a day where it's important that everyone is successful, not just some people. We want all of you in this room to come to any one of us, our volunteers, our staff, and ask the question, what is my return on my investment with United Way? What does that look like? And for us, what is important to us is we want you all to think about United Way differently. We want you to think about your giving or your time or your whatever it is with us differently. And for us, it's no longer about how much does United Way take from my dollar, but how much does United Way leverage my dollar to a return that is exponentially above the dollar I gave in the first place. That is what we want. Lastly, we want you to measure us differently. We don't simply want to put a campaign thermometer up on the board and say, look what we achieved. That will always be important to this United Way. It is our economic engine. It's what drives this community change. But at the end of the day, it will not be what defines us. What will define us are those 5 key statistics and then going the other way. What I hope for as a community and as part of a leader in this community is that we come to a point as a nonprofit community where we no longer simply celebrate a win based on serving more people year over year. And everyone in this room knows what I'm talking about. Nonprofits notoriously go out and say, last year we served 20,000 people, this year we served 22,000 people, give us the giant thumbs up, and absolutely, all of us should celebrate that. But when we know we're on the right path and we've made this change, is when we celebrate those numbers going backwards because we actually solved a problem. That's when we know this has happened. That's when we know this has worked. So what can you all do? So I've been holding this in my hand. You all have it at your place. And the first thing I ask you to do is invest in systematic change. First and foremost, go upstream and fight the battle. It's important. It'll make a difference. The second thing I ask you to do is in this wonderful piece that echoes the video, there's opportunities for every single person in this room to get involved and get engaged. Please do so. And then lastly, what I'd ask you to do, use your voice. Use your voice. The most important thing to community change is advocacy and voice. And there's over 500 people in this room today that can go carry this message. And this message, as I said, is not dissimilar from a lot of messages that have been heard in this room and other rooms across our community over the last several months. I'm going to wrap up today with a story. And it's a story that was shared with me by a colleague a few weeks ago. And it's a really interesting story. And if that, there you go. So about 160 years ago, there's a man named Charles Blondin. And he decided that he was going to cross Niagara Falls on a tightrope. And he did this in a way that created such a frenzy that 25,000 people came to see him do this. It was such a big story that 500 miles away, our own Akron Beacon Journal ran it as a front page story. That tightrope spans 1,100 feet long and spanned 160 feet above those raging falls. And Mr. Blondin was a bit of a show-off, as you can see from the picture. That was his third attempt. And on his first attempt, he decided that just simply walking across the tightrope wasn't good enough. And on the other side, on the American side, he wheeled out a wheelbarrow. And he had 200 pounds in it. And he took the wheelbarrow, and he walked across that tightrope, the 1,100 feet, to the other side of Canada, where the media and the press were waiting for him. So typical, this is a pretty exciting thing. It's 1860, guy takes a wheelbarrow across Niagara Falls. I know I'd be pretty excited about it. And I'm sure the press was too. And when he got over there, they were ready for the questions, and they started asking him questions. And one of the questions was, did you think you could do it? From the reporter, did you think you could do it? And he thought about it for a second, and he decided to be a reporter himself. And he turned around, and he said to that reporter, let me ask you, did you think I could do it? And the reporter thought about it for a while, and he looked at him and he said, you know what, I thought you could. So he grabbed the wheelbarrow, Mr. Blyman, and he turned to the reporter and said, then get in the wheelbarrow. So as I wrap up today, I'm going to ask you to do a couple of things. The first thing is, thank you for being here today. This is a big day for United Way of Summit County, and we're thrilled that all of you could be here. Before you run out the door to your next meeting, and when I'm done talking, there's going to be a brief presentation at the end. We ask that you stay to take that in. The last thing I'm going to ask you is think about it. 160 years ago or so, that ran on the front page of the Akron Beacon Journal. And the reason it ran is because people believed in what was possible. This morning, 160 years later, the United Way of Summit County is on the front page of the Akron Beacon Journal, asking the same thing. Believe what's possible. So as you leave today, what we ask of you is to believe, get in the wheelbarrow, and reimagine. Thank you all.